What is new today, Amber?
Oh, what isn't new today, Martin? What's new with you?
Well, I live in a world where nothing changes, where I look at the news and it's all positive and it's all
Whoa.
wonderful.
Wow.
And
I would like
it's
to come to your
it's called
world.
Pink Bubble, and you're welcome to join anytime you like.
You must be living in a bubble because
Yeah.
none of that is anything that I could say with any truth.
Well, maybe I saw the Barbie movie again recently and I just remembered
Oh,
the pink. I love the pink. I do love that movie.
yes.
Yes, one of the greatest soliloquies of all times.
Of our present time.
Yes, yes, and actually, that was kind of coming a little bit into what I was thinking. So, have you seen the Barbie movie?
I
Actually,
have.
okay.
Yeah.
So, the America Ferrera speech,
Yes.
"It is
Yes.
impossible to be a woman."
Yes, I am very familiar with that
I
speech.
I the second I heard it, and I've seen it in movie theaters, I think 4 times because I went to go see it with various children and, nieces and nephews. And the first time I heard it, I literally thought I was listening to the Friends Roman countrymen of our day. I was
Mm,
like, this is great writing that will last for a long time.
mhm.
But it was talking about the impossibility of something. And that actually kind of leads into a little bit of what I wanted to talk about today.
Okay.
Today, I wanted to talk about workplace cultures. And I'm going to use this word specifically. As we're trying to navigate what is respectful,
Mm.
there does seem to be sort of a space around, and I'm going to use the word pettiness.
Yeah.
That's some of the things I would hear and go, okay, that sounds like a respect question, and we should do that. And sometimes I hear something and go, really?
Mm.
Um, that sounds like a little bit of a bridge too far
Okay.
in terms of making a workplace comfortable.
Okay, so can you give me an example of what you would say? Not that you're
Yeah,
saying it's
no.
petty, but you're saying it's on the bridge to pettiness.
Yeah. I'll give you one that happened in my workplace not that long ago, which was someone in there wasn't feeling particularly well.
Okay.
And so there is a portable heater in a room. And so they were using a portable heater to make it better. And then, like, it's not that there was a portable heater or it was hot or too hot, but the way they were handling the window and opening it to the winter, the portable heater in winter seemed to be like, it just literally seemed to be for every time I turn it up, you're going to open the window more. And for every time you open the window more, and it just got back and forth to the point where it was like, this isn't even about heat anymore. This is
Mm,
about how we're dealing with the conflict in the room.
okay. First thought I had is if you're feeling sick, why the heck are you still at work? Did we learn nothing from a global pandemic? No, seriously, like I'm
Well, yeah.
like literally go the F home.
Well, I
Sorry.
use the word not feeling well because I want to be clear. If I'm wanting to be super clear, it wasn't that they were ill.
Okay.
It's they were having a cycle in their uh,
Adulthood?
adulthood. And I work with a lot of women in my space. And
Okay.
so some people wear blankets. Like literally, I can tell what's going on in HR
Mm,
with various people by what they're wearing and how they're dealing with the moment.
okay.
Because let's be clear, I'm just going to call it what it is. Menstruation, when it's happening in the office, uh, us guys, we get a little uncomfortable, but I want to make sure that if somebody has that uncomfortable space,
Mhm.
whatever I can do in a workplace to make, like, to me, that's not petty.
Yeah.
To me, that's a big deal. But when other people start opening the window or doing something or take a blanket away or make a snide comment about the blanket, I'm like, we don't need that.
Okay, so I'm going to take this in a direction that feels for some listeners potentially unprofessional, but I think it's really important that we talk about it. Um, did the individual in question self-declare
Yeah.
that they were menstruating?
To me, anyway. I
Yeah,
don't know if they did to others,
and
but I knew.
but that's and I just would say because I just want you to understand what I went through emotionally listening to you for the last 2 minutes. As soon as you brought up menstruation, the first thing that goes through my mind, and I identify as female, I was born female, um, is like, holy shit, here's a man starting to talk about something he has no right to talk about. And the first thought I had was, I sure as hell hope you didn't assume that. That was the first thought I
Sure.
had. So that's
Valid.
why I asked a clarifying question. And then also why I'm going down this road, because I'm happy to hear that this female-born person identified that for you, because I think that shows, in my opinion, that there is a safety in your work environment for them, that they can talk about it. And I think there are a lot of work environments, including podcasts that talk about work and professional environments, that would never touch that with a 10-foot pole, because we've been indoctrinated to believe that that's inappropriate.
Mhm.
And I disagree very much with that. Now, is there an appropriate way to discuss it? Absolutely. And it's not from a man. So I'm just going to say I'm taking that piece on because I can self-identify and talk about it. But also the pettiness of response, also, I think, in a situation like that can also be because you have male identifying individuals that have no concept of what that feels like. No concept of what that feels like. And in my experience as a menstruating professional in my entire life, I've felt like I had to hide it at all times, because if I ever declared it, I would get thrown under the bus professionally. It's the same reason why I work so hard to never be seen as crying as a woman in the workplace. Because if I ever cried in the workplace, I would literally get thrown under the bus with, oh, they're just being an emotional woman. And I'm telling you, in 2026, I hope that the environment feels different for female born than it did for me. But for me, in my last 35 years of professional experience, I've been petrified to ever talk about my emotions like that, to show them, and or to talk about my physiology. And I just feel like that's that is petty, that individuals would not have enough safety in a professional environment to talk honestly and earnestly about things that are going on for them as humans. But our professional environments, we have not created that. We've done the opposite. We've made it unsafe. Although we made it very safe for men to talk about whatever the heck they want. And it's all just fun and great and patting on the back and, oh, yeah, yeah, rah, rah. Meanwhile, that has not been given um, the same kind of bandwidth, I would say, if you're a female identifying. And I also want to speak to the fact that I know that there are others that are neither male nor female identifying that exist, that also we've given
Mm.
no space to, because we won't even allow for that to be recognized. And, all of this lights me up because we're all human and we do have shared experience, but we also need to create enough space to be gracious with one another. And yeah, I mean, if someone's cold, if someone's hot, if there's reasons for that, and then if they're opening and closing windows and doors and adding heat, and like, it's petty, but right beneath the surface of that pettiness, I think there's a lot more going on.
Mm.
Why can't we talk about what's actually going on beneath that, right?
What's going on beneath that, Amber?
I think exactly what I'm kind of pointing at, which is we this is a massive discrepancy in how to be a human-centered professional, and at the same time, with respect, admit how humanity shows up. We are body, mind, and spirit at all times. And many of us, of course, and I say spirit, I know a lot of people maybe don't believe that there's spirit. I don't think there's any, I mean, science even proves to us now that there is this ethereal part of being a human that's more than just the body and the mind. So spirit could be, you could equate that to emotions or senses, but like, we're more than just the professional cloak we put on when we go to work. We're humans. I mean, just the fact that every single office has to have a bathroom in it, is that not enough of a reminder that we are human and we have human needs even while we're working? Most offices have to create appropriate space for people to eat food. Why? Because humans can't go for an 8-hour workday and not consume beverages and food for fuel, at least, let alone for pleasure, right? Like, there's just so much humanity going on at a physical level that we just want to like blatantly disregard in a professional environment. And don't even get me started about interest holder engagement when it comes to this. Because, I speak a lot about interest holder engagement and what's happening. Why are we at odds and have so much conflict? A lot of times it's because we completely ignore that our interest holders are humans. How many arguments I've gotten into with key interest holders on my project when in fact, based on the day and whatever's going on in their life, some of them were just hungry. Some of them weren't feeling well. Some of them had no capacity because of what's going on in their personal life to even see or hear the truth about what was going on in their professional one. Uh, And yet, these all impede or influence our work together, but we don't want to talk about it.
Yeah. What I'm hearing you talk about, and I'll keep it gender neutral, is our humanity.
Yeah.
Because we all have things. We all have things we're dealing with.
Yeah.
We all have medical pieces we're dealing with. We
Yeah.
all, like, if I walked up and down the hallway and said, "Tell me what's going on in your physiology right now,"
Yeah,
I'm
we'd
sure
all have something to say.
everybody's, yeah, from I haven't eaten today to I'm backed up to
Yeah,
whatever it is.
absolutely.
And
Yeah.
and I bring that up, and I am a sailor. So when you're a sailor, you live with everybody, and there's no getting around
Yeah.
the humanity of just sometimes somebody gets up and leaves, and you're like, "What's going on?" "Well, they're seasick today."
Mhm.
You can't not get around that person's about to, like, expel.
Yeah. Right. Right.
You can't miss that fact, and you have to have some sort of, like, that's why I think that's a different sort of work environment
I agree with
than we
you.
would have in a regular office, where you have to kind of
Yeah.
go, humanity's still humanity, people.
Okay, so let me ask you a question because I'm really curious right now in the moment. Do you think that your perception of that situation you shared and its pettiness also is influenced by the fact that you were a sailor? That you actually, Martin, have a far greater capacity to understand and create space for human experience because of your sailor experience? Because I would agree with you. That professional work environment is eons away from a lot of the rest of us and what we've had to
Sure,
experience.
sure. So again, if I'm gonna define pettiness,
Mhm.
it is creating discomfort for discomfort's sake.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I just wanna be clear about that, because it's not harm. No
No,
one
no.
was harmed there,
No,
but
yeah.
I'm gonna create a discomfort for you. I know you don't like something, and I will specifically do the thing, and we know this.
It's like schadenfreude, which is I will take delight in someone else's discomfort. And
Absolutely.
it's like a human element that we kind of laugh about, but we all possess this, I think.
That's right.
Yeah.
And we all know the person in the office who's like, "Well, you can't talk about this to them or they're gonna lose their stuff,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's just gonna blow up." And I think when you're a sailor, and
Mhm.
I'll say this for any armed forces, if you're part of
Okay.
the armed forces, then you have to be in close quarters
Mm.
in uncomfortable ways.
Mhm.
Like, you just have to.
Yeah.
There are places where I've gone, in Starship Troopers, they had full co-ed showers. We didn't have full co-ed showers, but it's a one room and everybody's like,
Yeah.
you get undressed in the shower, but you're like, all the feet are still touching each other at the bottom of the showers. Like, you don't
Yeah.
care
Mhm.
because it's the only way to shower.
Well, because you're showering,
That's
and
right.
it's a human
I gotta get
necessity.
clean. You gotta get clean. Where stalls are beside each other for bathrooms. We don't care.
Mhm.
We have to be humans in these moments, and then we're gonna put our uniforms back on and go be professionals.
Yeah.
And it's just you. I don't know if that's a desensitization or if it's just a realization of being human, but
Mhm.
we just all go, "You're a human. I'm a human. We got to do these human things."
So
And off to human.
that immediately makes me think of something that I really struggle with, and that is this current issue, still in 2026, where there are people who are screaming mad about the fact that we would have gender neutral bathrooms in a public space. And I get really angry about it because every single house I have ever lived in since I was born has had gender neutral bathrooms, gender neutral toilets.
Yeah.
Every single house I have ever lived in, my personal experience in my personal life is that every toilet is gender neutral. But in a public space, we must have the binary. And I understand where that comes from because, of course, we've only really recognized, up until pretty recently, even in science, we've recognized there's only two genders in our species. I'm not suggesting that's true. I'm just saying that's been our cultural idea. And the cultures that recognize multiple genders on a spectrum, we eliminated those cultures in colonialism. We literally eradicated that belief system. I know in Canada, that's what we did. Our Indigenous heritage, we just said, you're wrong. There aren't 5 or 7 different genders, which many held true. Still to this day, they do. We just eradicated that through colonialism and through, genocide, in my opinion. However, in my own life experience, not to get too political into any of those conversations, I just don't understand why there are people who want to protest that in a work environment, we need to have a women's and a men's. And when you're talking about showering and feet are, the same, but everyone has a bit of privacy, like I look at that and I go like, okay, like the toilet's the same, the hand washing sink requirements are the same. Yes, I know that urinals exist. I am aware of this. And yes, I understand that they don't work as well for female born people perhaps than male born. At the same time, who are you to know what somebody needs? Like just because you present as female or male in a professional environment doesn't mean that you need a toilet the same way that everyone else does. So part of me is just like, what are we doing when we get upset about that? And some of the places that I really am enjoying, restaurants, pubs, hotels, often now, they're having gender neutral washroom facilities, but the toilets are all individual. So you go into the toilet, you shut the door, anyone can use those. But then when you come out to wash your hands, to tidy yourself, that's communal.
Mhm.
I love that. That to me is like the closest expression of what I've experienced in sanitary environments in my homes. But people are raging mad about it. And I'm like, why? What is the dilemma? And as a sailor, you're kind of sharing with me right now that like you have to transcend that to be in that work environment. So part of me is like, well, then why can't we transcend that in other places?
Sure. I can only just speak for, I don't know, I'll speak for myself
Of
on this one,
course, yeah.
which is there's that which separates us and that which connects us.
Mm.
So again, the story started with little bits of behavior
Right.
designed to poke.
Yeah.
And let's be clear, that's what I was talking about.
Yeah, pettiness. I get it.
Pettiness. But in that space, I mean, obviously, I didn't want to say the word menstruation as the first thing out of my mouth. But as someone who's had 4 girls that he
Mhm.
has raised, that's a word that's very common in our house. We knew, like, I know all my girls' cycles. I know what's going. Why? Because in a health world,
Mhm.
we're the same. Health. We're not the same in our physiology,
Mhm.
but I want you healthy. I want you healthy. I want you healthy. And that's mental health as physical health. And if you need, I carry Advil everywhere I go. Why?
For you and for others.
For everybody who needs it for health,
For whatever.
for whomever needs it because of sameness.
Mhm.
I don't see a difference that now there's lots of physiological things that change us, right? My grandchildren have a different physiology for medicine, and I've started carrying kids medicine with me
Mhm.
because physiology requires that for health.
Mm.
And for me, I come back to sameness.
Mm.
If we come back to our sameness, we're going to not have an issue.
Mm.
If we come back to our difference,
Mhm.
I'm going to put this box over here and this box over there.
Mhm.
We're going to have it's going to rub in a frictiony way.
Mhm.
I don't know where that lands with you, but that's how it lands with me.
Well, I think, just speaking from my own experience, and I'm not going to go into any detail, but there's abuse experience at the base of some of this. And I think there's, um, a power abuse dynamics in my experience, between men and women. That's what my professional experience has had, and in my personal life, I've seen that too. So I do understand that there is risk and there is threat when we show up as humans in a work environment, and our sexes are at the forefront. So let me be very clear. Like I understand and recognize that. But I also feel like as professionals, can we not also transcend that and behave in a way that is not policing
Hmm.
that? understanding that risk is there. Like I said, I have been on the receiving end of that risk. So have my children. And I wish that were not so. But I don't believe those were specifically gender related. I believe a lot of that experience also comes from the individuals that have had their own, and I'm not excusing this behavior, but have had their own issues as
Mhm.
to why they have behaved the way they
Sure.
have. And no one should ever have to experience that. But let's be clear, many of us have. But is the challenge and the issue really that we haven't policed bathrooms well enough? And I think the answer to that is so, in my opinion, the smaller part of this conversation.
Sure.
And I would push back to your initial conversation around pettiness and say, I think as humans, we behave in a petty way, oftentimes because we won't have the conscious conversation that needs to be had. And the pettiness becomes the socially acceptable to passively
Yeah.
aggressive show up with what we will not talk about.
Yeah.
So, me, for instance, I am in full on perimenopause. I'm
Mhm.
self declaring that. I wish I could say it was menopause, but if you know anything about menopause, you have to have gone 12 months without menstruation before you can declare yourself in menopause.
Yeah.
And I can't say that yet. I wish I could, but I can't. So I am physically suffering through a massive amount of hormonal change
Sure.
because of my age and stage. And I'm pretty open to talk about that,
Mhm.
but I'm amazed at how many people that makes uncomfortable.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I just go, first of all, we don't know enough about perimenopause or menopause because we didn't study female health. Why? Because only men were studying it. And
Yes.
so you don't study what you don't understand.
Yeah.
And then for the non binaries, there's no research done at
Mhm.
all, which just blows my mind. And I would say, side note, one benefit to AI development and technology is AI in medicine is going to be able to do the research that we need done in all of these gaps much quicker than we've done it with humans at the helm. And of course, my hope is that we will catch up. We will begin to understand the physiology of these things much quicker. But how we relate to each other, how we experience decorum, I guess, in a professional environment, I think we're petty because we just effing don't want to talk about what's really going on.
Well, 100%. Okay. There's a lot of things, and I'm going to put this on the table too. There's a lot of things we've also been told you shouldn't bring up at work.
Yes.
Okay.
HR manuals are full of them.
Oh my God, are they full of them? Is this part of this? Is this part of that?
Oh.
And again, um, I'm looking towards I'm going to come back to again. I might be same, and I don't mean same, but what I mean is what is our common
Similar.
experience?
Common experience, yeah.
What is our common experience?
I
Because
understand.
I will never common experience perimenopause.
No.
I can't common experience it.
Mhm.
I can have sympathy for it, but I can't have empathy for it because there's no way to experience that in my current physiology.
Right.
But and you're right. There's a lot of space around gender that we don't talk about,
Mhm.
and even you and I when we talk about this. So there's a space around gender that came up in a conversation you and I had a while back around. The question that women are asking women? Would you rather be in the woods with a man or a bear? That in and of itself is an entire other conversation around.
Another podcast?
Well, it speaks to the things we're not talking about.
Yeah.
Because if I look at common experience, then I see common humanity and common humanity.
Mhm.
And there isn't common humanity with the bear.
Mhm.
But we're perceiving, and you said it best because you talked about the risk.
Mhm.
There's risk in
Yeah.
every stage of this, and so it's very volatile. And at work, we don't want to create volatility. Pettiness does move towards volatility.
Mhm.
But again, I think one of the best things, and you said this in an earlier podcast, which is the only way to get through this is to go through
It's
this.
to go through it. Yeah. The only
We
way
have to
through
have
is through.
uncomfortable conversations.
Right.
Um, I had to uncomfortably say menopause for the first time on this podcast. Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
It's not a bad word,
No,
but it's not one typically found in a project management conversation. But if we're going to be real about managing our projects, we have to be real about our humanity.
I was going to say,
and this is human.
and the human-centered conversations. And I do think like that's also where, you know, nod to my HR professionals. I am grateful for you. I do value and honor the work that you do, but I do also recognize that there is a metric often in human resources that is trying to eliminate the risk
Yeah.
that we're going to have, you know, a litigious moment where someone's going to say something and someone's going to have to, you know, take up arms against it. And I think oftentimes we're just so afraid to have those conversations that we eradicate their occurrence.
Yeah.
We just make rules about, well, we're not going to ever talk about that.
And
I
even-
think that's where that pettiness can come out. Because as humans, I think sometimes we're like a bubbling pot ready to explode. And we do. We need opportunity to kind of have that get out so we can create a bit more space, and then we can actually be informed and be educated and do the research. And if we keep it all in, it comes out in passive aggressive behavior, pettiness. It can come out as downright abuse and abusive behavior. And I've witnessed that in professional settings too. So yeah, I think it is about having the through, doing the through.
We have to have the through, and some of that through is just being honest as you are comfortable with those around you.
Yeah.
Why did I know the person was going through cramps at that moment?
Because they told you.
They were comfortable enough to tell me.
Yeah.
And we were comfortable enough to have a conversation about need, and part of that need was a heater. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Or a blanket or whatever.
Well, then what's wrong with those accommodations?
And that's that when we're common humanity, and we're human centric, we can have all these conversations.
I agree, and
we need to have more of those human conversations in podcasting.
Okay, well there you go. Brace yourself for the rest of season 2,
and the rest of season 2 will be strictly on bodily functions.
No, let's not make it strictly, but let's also not be afraid to go there.
That's right. Yeah. That our humanity is still what defines us.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Martin. Always curious to converse with you.
And thank you for all the common humanity that came out today.